Hi, welcome back to the channel. It's been a minute. I got back from New York last week and I had a week of just catching up with so many things as soon as I got back, and really life said what jet lag. But I had a little day of recording lots of little poems for you, so I'm very excited. You can check them out on Instagram. I'll probably have a bunch here as well. But I just wanted to talk about something that's really been on my mind of late and something that I have a lot clearer thoughts on now that I'm back from my first solo trip and having my life completely changed. And that was, the initial concept was writing yourself a letter. And it kind of expanded into more thoughts as I traveled. I went through a bit of a topsy-turvy period where a lot of things in my life were shifting and it was scary, and I wasn't really dealing with things appropriately. I think I was bottling up a lot of emotions and stuff. And I remember one night where I just burst into tears and I was crying and I just could not stop crying. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with these emotions? Am I just going to freak out, or what's going on? So instead, I grabbed my journal and I decided on a whim, completely out of nowhere, to write myself a letter instead. So while I was sobbing my eyes out, I started writing myself a letter because all of these old traumas were coming back up. And I started writing a letter of compassion to myself to say, you know, I'm sorry that this happened. You didn't deserve that. I forgive you for doing X, Y, Z. And just kind of writing a full letter of compassion to say, hey, I got you, whatever's happened, because a lot of the time we seek that in other people, or we don't want to talk about it at all with other people. But when we can get that sort of compassion from ourselves, it really opens a doorway for a much richer relationship with ourselves. I think that's really important. So I did that and I continued to cry, and then I woke up the next day just not completely new, but definitely refreshed, and definitely feeling like I had a better handle on things because I could hold a space of compassion. A lot of us we hold spaces filled with compassion for other people, but when it comes to holding compassion for ourselves, it goes out the window and we suddenly are not doing that at all. And so when we don't even feel like we can have compassion for ourselves, it kind of just, it leaves room for so much scrutiny. It leaves room to bottle things up because we don't even feel like we can deal with it ourselves. But when you fortify the fact that you can hold space for yourself, then you will turn to yourself when things get tough. You can still turn to, and I think it's still important to turn to other people, but when you have that kind of pillar for yourself, that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing, because sometimes we are alone in life, and if we can't turn to ourselves, who can we turn to? That was a huge monumental thing. And I think it was something that I just wanted to share, but I just didn't have enough to talk about around that topic. I highly recommend, if this is something that you're just, if you're just going about your day, pop this on in the background and we can just share some thoughts, and share some thoughts in the comments too, because I think it's a really important topic. And sometimes it can seem so silly, like, write yourself a letter. What are you talking about? Forget about it. Who are you? But honestly, it really helped for me. But that's also because writing's an outlet for me. I think if you're someone who maybe writing's your outlet, or maybe you're like a bit of a creative soul or whatever, words just have an impact on you, it's something to try. It's not going to work for everyone, but I think everyone should have in their toolkit, their survival toolkit for this crazy earth, just something that they can rely on that allows them to hold compassion, space for yourself, gratitude, appreciation, so on and so forth. So yeah, moving on from that, it really allowed me to have a better understanding of what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. And then it allowed me to look at my life and my routines and decipher what I wanted to change. Like, what are the things that I was neglecting? What are the things that could make me feel even better? And for me, it was kind of like coming back to my say like morning spiritual practices, speaking things out, talking to my guides, journaling, doing my little cards for fun, journaling, I already said that, lighting incense, pulling some crystals for the day, things that make me feel happy, things that I used to do when I was younger, when there wasn't so many life stresses of growing up and yada yada. And that, one, helped me come back to my inner child, but two, really align myself and really helped me connect with higher powers, my own power, that kind of thing. It's super individual and personal, and I think it's sacred, and I think it should be that way. I think it's really beautiful. And I hold those conversations talking about that kind of practice for me, for my loved ones, and for, say, my best friends, you know, things like that. We can share those practices. And I think it makes it even more special. It really helped me decipher, hey, okay, these are the things that are missing in my life. And being able to implement those things again with compassion, because sometimes we can be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing this and yada yada. We come from a place of like chaotic, angry, just messy energy, and when that happens, you put pressure on yourself, and then you just stifle yourself, and then you wonder why things aren't starting up. It's because you're like attacking yourself. If someone comes at you, starts attacking you, like, you should be meditating in the morning, I'm running for the hills, or I'm squaring up, don't talk to me like that. If you're doing that to yourself, how are you going to get anywhere in life? If you're just like fighting, like going to fight yourself, calm down. Life is here to enjoy. And even when you can get to a stage where you look at challenges, and yes, they're hard, yes, they can be so annoying, but you can be like, this is the prime opportunity for growth and a new development in my life. They've kind of become exciting on the side. Of late, I've tried to tackle life from that energy, and yes, sometimes it feels totally impossible. Sometimes you're just like frustratingly crying, or you're angry, or you feel just messed up. When you have that afterthought of, okay, this is crazy, but this is going to accelerate me so much. Because the good times are great, don't get me wrong, they're amazing. They're there to be enjoyed and expressed and shared and stuff like that. But without the darker times, one, we don't get to appreciate those lighter times nearly as much. But also, we grow more in our darker times. It's like when you're in a relationship, the most growth you have in a relationship is honestly when you're facing adversity, when you're facing challenges together, when you're maybe disagreeing with each other. Agreeance, it's confirmation. You learn how one another reacts in terms of conflict, in terms of difficulty, because when all is good and dandy, that's great, but it's the real root of things, the real raw energy comes out when there's challenges around, when things aren't so comfortable. That's when you really can learn a lot about not just yourself, but other people too. So it's the same thing in life. And when you learn to appreciate that, no challenge is too challenging, and you'll always be given what you can accomplish, what you can get through. Your brain will always want to give up and stop long before you actually need to. It's navigating that and learning how to make it through that. You know, it's tricky, but it's so rewarding. And yeah, so that was kind of what opened things up for me, and it really allowed me to jump at life in a totally different way. I joke about it all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm a soul, this is my vessel, and I'm just throwing my vessel around the place, and I'm gonna do that for the rest of my life. I love being terrified, slightly comfortable, slightly terrified, in it for the plot. I'm trying to make an interesting movie here. Throw ourselves at life and see what happens. Throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and go with it. And for me, the next step of that was booking a spontaneous trip to New York. I wanted to go there to scope out future things, because I do want to move. I'm just figuring that whole situation out, so more on that when I figure it out in my own brain. It was also an opportunity at the same time to do something completely self-reliant. It was kind of a little nuts because I've never been overseas before. I've never been on a flight that's over 4 hours, I think. And yeah, it was all first times for me, very scary first times. And I was anxious. Then I got really excited for the trip. I went on the trip. I got to New York and I freaked out. Those first 2 nights were nuts for me. My anxiety was through the roof. I've never felt more panic, more fear, more anxiety, more what have I done in my entire life. I was like, how was I so stupid to not come here with someone? What am I doing? I have to go home. And I was freaking out. I think the second or third night I was just bawling my eyes out. I had such a great day, but I got back and it was when everything goes silent at night and I was watching Gilmore Girls every night. Every time I'd go into that hotel room, bam, Gilmore Girls on the TV, because I was like, if this doesn't come on right now, my comfort show, if this doesn't come on the TV right now, I am gonna be a mess. And so straight up Gilmore Girls would go on the TV and I would just zone out. And I remember one night that was not working. I think I'd fallen asleep to Gilmore Girls. Netflix had done the thing where it stops the show to ask if you're, still alive, still watching, or whether something else is happening. Not hearing the background noise anymore must have woken me up, my subconscious, and I woke up in the biggest state of anxiety, was bawling my eyes out, genuinely considering coming home early, like giving up. And then I couldn't sleep. I pulled an all-nighter. Instead of going to sleep during the day, I was like, nope, I'm gonna walk to Washington Square Park. I walked over there and then I was planning to come home after that, but I went on a huge walk, ended up going to the Hudson River. I just walked and walked and walked. West Village, I just trekked. And I ended up having the most beautiful day. Into the most beautiful night, I ended up having a really nice dinner with myself, watching more of Gilmore Girls, going for another walk, seeing the bridge. I was just I was living my best life, okay? And that lack of sleep, that persistence of not going to sleep and just pushing on really helped. And before I knew it, my anxiety did not come back. I was fully comfortable, more comfortable than I ever thought I could be. And I was in a completely different country by myself and I was loving life. I went from one extreme to the other. I was so comfortable walking around the city and talking to people and making friends and going into shops and enjoying my time. And I met some of the most beautiful people just because I chose, instead of going inwards, instead of giving up, to instead open my heart and be vulnerable, feel everything, take it all in, and be grateful for this human experience that you get to experience, coming with the anxiety, the panic attacks. It's great, but it also comes with the wonder and seeing things for the first time. And I really threw myself at that. I was like, there's no way I'm giving up. I'm pushing through and I'm here. I'm going to explore. I'm going to do what I came here to do, make the connections I came here to make. And I had a better time than I ever could have possibly imagined. And I met the most incredible people. I had such a heart, mind, eye-opening, awakening moment. And it was the same thing as holding that bit of compassion for myself when I wrote that letter to myself. It was the same thing when I allowed myself to believe in me. I was like, you don't have to go home. You have more in you. And it didn't feel like it at the time, but I chose to trust myself, trust my gut, trust my intuition, know that, at the end of the 10 days, I was going to come home anyway. And, if I wanted to see if I could actually move, if I could actually live in a big city like that, I had to be able to push through. Because if I can't push through that, how am I supposed to go back and live there? It's not going to happen. So I pushed through and I ended up having the most incredible experience. And it just kind of showed me that wonderful things can happen on the other side. When things feel impossible, just know that on the other side, there's probably wonders that you could never even have possibly dreamed of. But it's like being there to push open that doorway to actually allow yourself to experience life and all of the wonders that it has to offer. I mean, this life can be whatever you want it to be, and you can fill it with whatever experiences you want to fill it with, especially when you know, when you are coming from a place of privilege where you can travel, where you can throw yourself at things, even if it's going to an art exhibition down the road or going into the city or going into nature. When you have the privilege to do those things, do them, harness them, do it as much as you can. I mean, that whole experience is unforgettable. Those 10 days changed so much about my future, about me, about my mindset, about what I believe that I'm capable of, what I know that I'm capable of. It's heightened everything. And I think it all comes from the root of holding compassion and space for yourself and believing in yourself, actually giving yourself a chance. We have to give chances in this world. Another thing that kind of spurred off that thought was from relationships, when people have trust issues from things that have happened in the past. And there are so many people that end up, you know, like freaking out and not being able to trust someone. It's like, if you don't give someone the chance, just like if you don't give yourself the chance, you won't get to experience things. If you don't give someone the chance to prove to you that they are trustworthy, you're never going to know, and you're going to waste so much time. Just get it over with. Just get it over with. Give them the chance to prove to you whether they're a trustworthy person. And if straight off the bat they prove that they're not a trustworthy person, you have saved so much time. There you go. And then you can move on, you know? Things don't have to be so complicated. It just starts from compassion. It starts from holding space. Make space and watch all of the things flood in. Because when you don't have space, then things won't come in because there's no room. But when you start creating space for yourself, for others, for experiences, man, the things that will head your way and draw to you because you're open to it. It's crazy. So if this has shown up for you, I hope this has shown up for someone who maybe is contemplating something or wanting to make changes or open to new thoughts. You know, I hope that this reaches the right people, person. Who cares? It could be one person, I don't mind. But if it's you and if you resonate with this, then that makes me the happiest gal in the world. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say on this. I don't think there are any other points that I wanted to elaborate on, but I love you with all my heart. I hope this was a cool little bit of insight. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. If there's anything you want to see, anything you want to hear me talk about, any poetry prompts you want to hear a poem about, let me know. Comments are open, DMs are open, let me know. I love you. I will talk to you next time. Bachi. Ciao.